Colleagues, my name is Olajide Olattunbosun, representing Atisbo, Shaki East, and Shaki West Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Oyo State. My motion is on the need to include the teaching of leadership principles in the curriculum of secondary schools and tertiary institutions in Nigeria. The House notes that education is the key that unlocks the development of personal and national potentials and equips every person with knowledge, skills, attitude, and values to enable him or her contribute meaningfully towards national development. The House also notes that the goals of higher education as specified in the Nigeria's National Policy on Education include acquisition of both physical and intellectual skills, which will enable individuals to be self-reliant and useful members of the society. Aware that the education curriculum in secondary schools and tertiary institutions in Nigeria have been developed and continually changed to cater for the needs and growth of the society. Also aware that those curricula have undergone constant changes. There are no provisions for subjects and courses that will keep students with requisite leadership skills and knowledge to make them future leaders and persons capable of engaging in global competitiveness. Concerned that the absence of subjects or courses on leadership and development in the education curriculum in the secondary schools and tertiary institutions has left the youths ill-equipped and with little or no capacity to assume leadership roles in the society. Disturbed that the new additional subjects introduced by the National Educational Research and Development Council, NERDC, and implemented are essential because they include subjects such as entrepreneurial skills, but did not include the teaching of leadership, which is an essential subject for future leaders. The House resolves to mandate the Committees on Basic Education and Tertiary Education and Services to liaise with relevant authorities to ensure the inclusion of the teaching of leadership principles and practice in the curriculum of secondary schools and tertiary institutions in Nigeria, and to report within 6 weeks for further legislative action. I so.
Honorable Olajide.
I remain Olajide Olattunbosun, representing Atisbo, Shaki East, and Shaki West Federal Constituency. I'm from Oyo State. Mr. Speaker, the issue of leadership is a major issue in this country today, and it is the singular factor that differentiates nations that are great and those one referred to as third world countries. If our youths, our children, if they must take up leadership role in the future, we have to equip them adequately. And it has to be deliberate. We must make conscious efforts. We must take practical steps to ensure that the curriculum of our schools, issues of leadership principles and practices, we teach our children from secondary SS1 up to polytechnic and university. Sir, a few months ago in this chamber, we all passed the Not Too Young to Run bill. It means if that piece of legislation becomes law tomorrow, more of our young people will be seeking for elective positions. Now, our future begins today. How do we ensure that these young people have the right skills, have the right exposure to issues of leadership before we hand over government or governance to them? In this country, we have statesmen, the late Sadana of Sokoto, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, Nnamdi Azikiwe, and of recent, the late Chief Ekweme was buried. These are people, they are nationalists, statesmen. Why don't we teach our children about their leadership style, what they did in their own time to make the country better? Mr. Speaker, when I was doing some research on this subject, I read about Singapore. In 1965, it was a third world country with a GDP per capita of $500. But that country had a fortune of somebody called Lee Kuan Yew that became its prime minister. And by 2013, Singapore had a GDP per capita of 55,000 US dollars, one of the highest in the world. These things don't happen by sitting and expecting things to just evolve. We need to start teaching our children that leadership is about creating a vision, is about inspiring people, looking at the bigger picture, so that in our parliament, in another 20 or 30 years, issue of religion or ethnic sentiments will not divide us, because we'll have brought up our youth or children in a way that they are broad-minded and they look at the bigger picture. Mr. Speaker and my colleagues, I want you to support this motion because our future is the present. If you don't take the right steps today, that future that we all desired, we may not get it, God forbid. Thank you so much, and God bless Nigeria.
Say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.